Need to get this one. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut here with Francisco Rubalcava Jr. And you're going, who? He haven't been here forever. How's it going, man?
Good. How about you, Ed?
Good. I'm sorry. I'm still in my sweatshirt. I'm freezing today. I do a cold plunge in the morning.
Oh,
and
man.
it takes me a couple hours to warm up.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Trying to get back. I did it last year, was losing weight and then got out of it. All right. So before we came on, we've been talking a little bit and you're like, rates are down. And I'm like, yeah, rates are down. But they're down a little over 0.75% from what they were at. So depending on where you are on the scale, if you were 7.5, 7.75, because your FICO score, you'll be 7% or close, closer to that, depending on where you're at, or because our really rates were 8.25, 8 3/8. Again, it depends on your FICO score and the program and how much you're putting down. But in general, yes, rates are down about 0.75 point.
That's good.
And they continue a little bit every day, which is good. So we're seeing that going forward. One of the statements I made a while back and I've been listening to is it's going to depend on how the Christmas sales are with what happens beginning of the year next year, whether rates are lower or higher. Okay. And the reason I say that, because they look at the Christmas sales. If we see that everybody's spending a ton of money, then we think the economy is good. But it's not. There's people putting all this stuff on their last little bit of their credit cards to get through Christmas because everybody's got to buy something from everybody.
Yeah.
Just because they feel guilty if they don't. And I was looking at the numbers on Monday about, the online sales for Monday and over the weekend from Black Friday. And there was $12.4 billion of business done, which sounds like a lot, but that's only 25%. Almost 25% of the normal Christmas shopping. And the other 3/4 of it is on brick and mortar. And they're saying they were slow. And the Black Friday sales that used to be at like Best Buy and Walmart, the line was around the block. People slept there overnight, all that kind of stuff on Friday, Thursday into Friday. Not that way. You can walk right in now.
Yeah, it was. I honestly went on Friday, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, just to go get like Christmas decorations and stuff. Like we visited we went to like Michael's and like some of those other stores over there, like off Sisk.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like even Best Buy and everything. It wasn't like a super big craze, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know a lot of things like ever since COVID have switched, but like you said, right, it only makes 25% of it.
Right. And it's online. Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's not horrible, right? And I think like we were saying, I mean, that's what more people need to be doing right now with the uncertainty, right, of what's going to happen, is rather than splurging on those, unnecessary things, like start planning towards, your future and investing into a house and taking advantage of it. Because, like we said, with these rates dropping where they're at, and if they continue to drop, it's going to invite more people or more sellers, onto the market that are then going to be able to make the change and be willing to, because at 8%, I mean, it was already getting hard for them to justify it,
it was hard for them after 6.5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
how many people we have couldn't afford, above 4.5 to 5, they just don't qualify anymore. And that's what the problem is. And so what I'm looking at is the question is, and this I talked about before, whether the chicken or the egg, and what happened in the beginning of the year, if rates drop and the buyers come out before the sellers come out, values are going to go up drastically. If sellers come out before the buyers come out, we're going to see a lull in prices. Are you following me here?
Yeah. Like as in,
like if the sellers come out to put their house on the market way before more buyers come out, there's going to say, oh my goodness, I need to lower my price, or I need to do this. Right. And so again, it's all depend on what happens with the Christmas holiday season, how we're going to be the first part of the year. But that's how it is every year. Right. Okay. I always say normally, if you're going to do a cash out refinance, don't do it in December, wait till January or first part of February, because we're going to see that the sales weren't as good as they were. We have not had great sales ever since COVID.
Right.
Right. And just what we were talking about, you said it's different. The TVs lined up that some people were taking pictures of at Best Buy, normally people run in and steal the TV because it's so cheap, right? And I don't mean steal it, but buy it. But there was a ton of them. Well, how many more TVs do we need? We don't need that many new TV. Oh, it's a new this. Well, my TV just works just fine right now.
Right.
And I don't care if it's cheaper. What do we really need? And that's what people are going after. And then some of these sales, I don't know if you saw this, but like a Target, they pulled there was this Black Friday sale, and behind it pulled the other thing that said, oh, this is the normal sales price.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, and I think And I think even that's, what has stopped it is that I think people are, they're not like blinded by the facade as much, right? Like you said too, like, yes, there's always new coming out, but how different is it,
Right.
And even with that, I mean, it's good. It's really nice to see because it's what we need to see to go towards the right path. Like we just need more people to be able to get there. And you know, it is crazy though, because like we're saying, I mean, as we're leading into the new year and as we, progress through January, February, and then getting in towards, March, like we still have the whole idea of this other, dream for all, coming
Yeah.
again in
I haven't heard
March.
anything on that, to be
I
honest with
know
you.
it's been silent. It's so it's that's coming, and then also, I mean, you have people that are going to be doing their taxes, like spring. I feel for next year, we're gonna see it like progress, and I feel get busy again. I'm really hoping for it.
Well, we're going to be busier next year, but it's not going to be any more. I mean, it's just a little bit more, because one of the problems we have, and I talked about this earlier, is, and I don't mean keep saying that, but I just talk about the same things over and over again. But if you look at the new home sales, right, the numbers came out at, I think in October, 439,000, which represents a 7.8 month supply of new home sales. Not our overall inventory. Our overall inventory is not like that. But when builders build, they want to build at a 4.3 month and below supply. If they have a 7.8% month supply, they pause construction. Anything over 6.5 months, they pause. Are you following me here? So that's why they're going to be slower to react to the new rates and buyers coming out. And so what's going to happen is more existing home sales will sell if they come on the market.
Right.
And that's what you're going to see. So existing home sale prices will go up because you're going to have less new home builders, because they're not building these homes because they don't want to have a huge amount of inventory. So it's a catch-22. Is it the cart before the horse kind of thing? And that's what the problem's going to be. So you're going to see lower rates, more demand, but it's going to have to buy existing home sales because the new home sales just aren't going to be there.
Yeah. Even with the new homes, I mean, they're still priced a little too high, right? To where,
according to whom?
I would say, like, so I have a lot of people who like look in different areas, right? Or like even Manteca, and they just feel, I mean, a lot of people aren't willing to make that trade-off for like the smaller lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they just can't justify that purchase themselves. So what I've been seeing is a lot of these new homes, they're really sitting,
Mm-hmm.
like there hasn't been much, even with the incentives that they're offering, they're not pushing them, as they were moving before.
Yeah, it's because a lot of people don't realize they're giving 25 grand to buy the rate down. And even to buy the rate down from 8% to 7% or 6.75 is, for some people, it's just not enough incentive to move forward. But if rates keep going down and they are offering that, and now your rate's at 5.75, it's more of an incentive. That's the difference. It's just, you're right. All new home sales are going to have, the new homes are going to have a much smaller lot than you can get on a existing home. But the existing home comes with other issues. So, I mean, it's just depends. One of the biggest issues is and I keep saying issues, my wife, like, gosh, get a new word. The problem, and she says that one too. The fact is, it's cost so much to buy land and permits just to get that thing started. So they're like $125,000, $150,000 into that before they even start building.
Yeah.
So that's the government, instead of giving money to us to buy homes that, the what's that, shared appreciation for all or whatever, they need to give it to builders and incentivize them to build. That's what they need to do. They need to fast track that stuff, get them to build factories, to build houses and factories. That's what we're going to need to get to, and incentivize them to do that. This current administration is not going to do that. The last administration didn't do it, and the administration before that didn't do it. So at one point, somebody has to do this. Are you following me here? Because a lot of these governments want to go, well, we don't want any more houses.
No,
that means they're just making renters forever. And the numbers for rents actually came down year over year. Rents are down. The cost of a rent is down over year, because a lot more of manufactured homes have been built, the big apartment complex, to rent. And they're so much cheaper now because of how many they've built.
Right. we have our property manager in our office. She was saying like, yeah, what happened too, right? Like we start thinking of all the pieces we put together, right? Like how we say that a lot of people became accidental landlords and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rental market is very saturated right now. There's a lot of people trying to rent their properties out, and it's caused, like you said, those prices are not as appealing for some of these like landlords anymore, right? Because it's depending on how it is, what rate you buy it at, and things like that. You're going to be out of pocket. Even like I've been seeing like difficulties with like multifamilies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like multifamilies, they're so expensive now. The rents don't make sense, especially with people that just don't increase them.
Well, and the problem is, if that was an apartment complex, it would be worth what the rents are.
Right.
Where 1 to 4, 2 to 4 units are built off of what the value of the property and the lot is, not what the rents are. That's the difference. And if they made them, if it's only worth what the rents were on those 2 to 4 units, people would increase their rents.
Yeah.
Right. But that was what we were talking about before. There was one in like Turlock for 700,000. The rents were 650, 570, ridiculously cheap. It's not worth 700, that number.
No.
Yeah. Because you can't make unless even if you lived in one of the units, you have to kick everybody out to be able to get it to where it needs to be. And in today's world, you can't do that.
Yeah. Then you have people too doing like, like I know a lot of people do like some of those programs where you they're utilizing the rents, right, to like have them qualify for it. And then that too is difficult because it's not ringing out.
Right. They have to make more money. And they can't really use all the rents. So basically, it's like if a veteran was buying it, he can't use the rents to qualify. A lot of times, whatever rents are there will help you, but you got to qualify for the whole, a lot more of it yourself. Right. And that's just, get a non-occupying co-borrower to help you. See if that still works. Right. Follow me? Where before you couldn't do that on the 2 to 4 units.
Right.
You could, but it just was 15% down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, nowadays too, it's changed so much that, like when I talk to a lot of people, for the most part, like, you need to have combined incomes to purchase nowadays. Something decent, right? Like to be not in a bad area and have a house that, doesn't have a lot of major problems or isn't like a fixer, right?
Yeah. Well, just think the average home price is over 400,000. And where is that in our area? And we'll just move on from there. I'm not trying to be negative, but that's why. All right. So when I was in Southern California, there's a city called Oceanside. It was right next to the Camp Pendleton, right? And there was a huge space between it to San Clemente. Well, it was we called it Ocean Slime for years because it was not that nice of an area because of the base was there. And a lot of bases, when they're next to something, it's not the best neighborhoods around there. San Diego got so expensive. Del Mar was extremely expensive for Rancho Santa Fe, and it slowly worked its way all the way up to Oceanside now, where you're like, what? I got to pay how much to live in Oceanside? And that's the difference. And that's what happens in some of these areas as values go up. Those areas change and they get nicer. And so it's not a bad thing, but for that cycle to go through that process of changing that neighborhood, it does displace, what do they call it, genderfy or whatever. They always got to come up with a word instead of just saying it's better for the neighborhood because there's less crime in general. And that's what's happening. So those houses are changing hands and neighborhoods will get better.
Right.
And safer.
Exactly. And I've said it before too, where it's like I say, our area, like the Central Valley and everything, is really starting to like I don't think we'll go below 400,000 anymore.
No,
ever again. No. Like as the average, I think it's going to hold firm or it's going to keep rising.
Sorry, my employee's trying to get in.
Oh no,
they forget we're on air.
Yeah. So it's just, I think, realistically, it's still a pressing matter that I try to motivate everybody to just be actively looking at all times and, create a situation where you're comfortable.
Right. And you used to be able to, well, I can't afford Modesto, which is unusual. So I go to Ceres. Well, you're going to get to a point where you can't do that. Okay. I moved to Keys. Well, it's not going to, now you're in Turlock. You know what I mean? It's just, we're at that point where if you don't get in the next couple years, you're never going to get in.
Yeah, it's gonna change a lot. There's, I mean, we even say like how the industry's changing and stuff. It's yeah, it's tightening. You really got to be on your toes and staying consistent, right? Like consistently trying to help people, because the market is really it has been changing, right? To the point where, like we said, it's getting harder and harder, um, for everyday people that want to purchase.
Yeah.
It's getting harder.
Yeah. And when rates come down, it's going to be easier, but the house value is going to go up. So you're offset. So you better to buy now and then refinance later. We've been saying that forever. Everybody's making fun of us for saying that. Not us, but everybody says that, buy now and refinance later. It's so true, but people, they're afraid because they thought there was a bubble and everything else, and there's not. And we've shown that. So if you don't get out of your own way, you're never going to buy. So we need to help them. So if you need help, please reach out to us. If you don't get help here, get help somewhere. I'm just saying, reach out to Francisco Rubalcava at 209-493-2400, 209-493-2400. And I'm at Parcaut everywhere. Reach out and we'll help you. Francisco, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.